Hello everyone. Welcome back to Developer Fest 2023. This is week 2 of low code, no code sessions. The topic for today's session is start automating your work with SAP Build Process Automation. Process automation is one of my favorite build topics, and I'm curious to hear from our speakers, Rama and Dinesh from SAP on this topic. Attendees of this session may post their questions in the chat and we'll get it answered. Let's welcome Rama and Dinesh.
Thanks, Srinivas. Hi, all. Welcome to the session. So I am Rama. I'm from the product management team of SAP Build Process Automation, and I have been with SAP for more than 17 years, worked across different roles and products. So let's jump into the session of and see how we can start automating your work with SAP Build Process Automation. So SAP Build Process Automation is one of the low-code, no-code offering in the SAP Build portfolio. It combines the capabilities of workflow, automations, business rules or decisions, visibility, and so much and so forth. Now, so the scenario, what we will try now to model is releasing the credit block sales order. So what in S4HANA? So in S4HANA, there is a credit controller who can set a credit limit on a business partner. So when the credit limit is set for a business partner and a sales order is created for that particular business partner, there is a credit check which happens. If the total amount of the sales order exceeds the credit limit, then the sales order will get blocked automatically. We need to explicitly remove the block. And for this process, there is an approval which is needed. The approval can be either via internal workflows in S4HANA, or it can be via an external workflow from BTP. So we will go ahead and create an approval process in SAP Build Process Automation to do this and see how we can release the credit block in S4HANA. So this will be the scenario which we will try to model in this session. So how the flow goes is like, I will first start with creating a simple process with an API trigger. I will add some forms for approval, and to determine who will be the approver, we will create a decision. And in the process, we will also be consuming the actions to read or write data to S4HANA. So what I mean by it is, we will be reading the sales order details from S4HANA. And also at the end of it, once the request is approved for credit block to be removed, we will be writing the status back to S4HANA. In the process, we will also be using the actions on the CAP services. After that, I will hand it over to my colleague Dinesh, who will help you with showing some new cool features, like how you can add a value help using actions, how you can add an email notification, then how the data can be shown in a table in an approval form, conditional auto approval, and then he will also take you through how to create or modify an action project. So this will be the flow. And then we have given the links for the initial setup. We are not touching the initial setup of the BTP tenant in this as part of this session, but we have given the link. You can follow the link and get the initial setup ready. And we have given further links so that you can build your first business process with SAP Build Process Automation following this tutorial. And since we are touching upon the actions from CAP services, we have also given the link which you can try out later. So without much delay, we will jump into the system and see. Now that the BTP tenant is set up already for us, this is the unified lobby API from where you can start creating a SAP Build Process Automation. So here you can see the create. And as you can see, there are different options. So build an application will help you build an application like a build apps. But now what we are concentrating is to build an automated process to release a credit block sales order. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then here again, we can create an actions or a automation or a process. So we will now do a business process creation. We will give it a name. We want to unblock the sales order. So we will give the same name. And we can give a more detailed description here. Yeah, so the process is getting created. Yeah, now we have to create a process. That was the project what we created. Now we'll create a process. We can give a detailed description if required, and then we say create. Yeah, so for a process, we will have to first configure the inputs and the outputs. So for this process, the only input which we will require in the beginning will be a sales order number. So we will define that, and then it's a required field. So we have configured an input. Now to trigger this process, there are different options. First is the forms API, where you will get a UI form where you can know the user has to fill in the attributes, and then once he says submit, the process gets triggered. Or else there is an event trigger. So in this case, whenever an order, sales order is created in S4HANA, an event will be triggered, which will in turn trigger this process. But that will be covered by my colleague Vin Acharya in the upcoming sessions. So for now, we will go out with the API trigger. Generally, we use an API trigger wherever there is no user intervention, and say an application like Build Apps wants to trigger the process, right? So in that case, we go for an API trigger. For our session now, we'll go with an API trigger now. We'll create an API trigger. And then we say create. I think there is a gap. I'll just try to create once more. Okay, it has got created, and we can see that the input parameter what we configured is automatically synchronized here. Now we have configured only the sales order, but we don't have the complete sales order details. So for that, what we can do is we can then create a, we can consume an action project, which is already published in this case. In the later part of the session, Dinesh will show you how to create an action project, but for the sake of time, I will consume an already published action project, and we will see how we can read the further sales order details from S4HANA. Right, so for that, we'll have to go to actions and say browse the library for the published action projects. And then I can search for the project. So this is the project, and then we can see the different actions which are possible with this the different actions which are possible with this project. Now what do we want to do? We want an action which can read a specific credit block sales document details. So we will go ahead and choose this action. Yeah, and then here we need to configure the destination variable. So what we are creating is just a variable name. At the time of deployment, we will be choosing the actual destination. So since this is S4HANA destination, I will choose it as S4HANA. I will just give it a name. And then we can give a description if required. The type is destination. And then I say create. The variable gets created. The next is to configure the inputs. Sales document is nothing but a sales order, which we have got as an input from the trigger. So we will choose that. Then we can see that S4HANA will return the credit block sales document details with these attributes. So we have configured the action now. Then next what we will do is we'll create a decision to determine the approver, and then we will go about creating an approval form. So we will go to the decision and say we want to create a decision here. So what does the decision do? The decision will determine the approver for us. So the decision has inputs and the outputs, which we need to configure. So we'll get into the decision. Yeah, so we can add an input parameter here. So what are we going to give? The input parameter is the sales order, and the output will be the approver details, but we don't have a data type for it currently. So before going to this step, we will go ahead and create a data type for it. So we can go to the overview page, create, and then we have this data type. So first we want to create a sales order data type. Here I want to add some fields to it. So say I want the sales order number here. Then I want the sales organization. I want the distribution channel. I want the total amount of the sales order. And then I want the currency. Yeah, so I have now created the data type for sales order. We'll go and create one more data type for the output parameter, which is nothing but the approver details. So what does this data type have? It will have an approver name. Then it will have an approver email. And in some cases, say we want to send a DL as a approver, right? Then so for that case, we can just create a approver user group. So where a list of users can be added. So with this, we will save this data type as well. Now we can go back to our decision. And we can configure the data type. So the data types, what we have configured here will appear here. We can choose that we want the sales order as the input parameter. And you can give a detailed description here. Then we will add the output parameter. Output parameter is our approver details. We will give the name here and a description. Then we have to configure the rule. So coming to here, there are two different types of rules which you can configure. One is a decision table and the other is a text rule. So decision table is like in a table format where you can have multiple rows. So whenever you have a lot of condition attributes and there are a lot of no like rows which you want to configure, you can go for a decision table. And if it's a simple rule, then you can go for a text rule, which will be like a if else kind of configuration. So text rule is generally preferred when your rule is very simple. So in this case, since the sales orgs can be many, distribution channels can be many, we will try to go with the decision table. So this will be the approver determination rule. So we will give the same name and then a description to it. Then we have the hit policy as first match or all match. So what does it mean is in the decision table, if you mark it as first match, then the first condition which satisfies the result of that alone will be returned. But if you mark it as all match, the entire decision table will be browsed through and all the conditions, all the rows which matches the conditions will be returned in a table format. So this is the difference. For now, we'll keep it as first match. And then we are going to the next step where we have to configure the input and the output vocabulary. So input is the sales order. So which are the condition attributes which we want, right? So in this case, we will just try to choose a sales organization and the distribution channel as the condition attributes. And then say next step. Here the result vocabulary is your approver details. So say I want all the attributes from the approver, which is the approver name, email, and user group. Then we configure everything. We go to the next step. We can check once whatever we have configured here and then say create. Okay, we have created the rule. Now we will have to specify the actual condition here, right? So say if sales org is 1710 and if distribution channel is say 10, then I want my approver names to be Rama, which is me, and Dinesh. And approver email, I can configure it to my email ID. And Dinesh. In this case, I don't want to configure approve user group. I can leave it empty. And if I have further conditions, like if the sales org is something else, then I can add more rows and do it. For now, I will just save this. The decision is saved now. So going back to our process. Yeah. We need to configure the inputs to the sales order details and map every attribute here. Distribution channel, sales order number is nothing but your sales document, sales organization, then your total net amount. Yeah, we have configured. So we can see the error is gone now. Okay, now we have configured the decision. So what is the next step? We need to configure an approval form for it. So we'll go to the approvals, new approval form. Here we can give the name of the approval form. Approval form for unblock of sales order. And then we say create. Okay. So here we can configure the subject of the form. We can give some static text and also we can choose from the process context. So we will just say this is an approval form for releasing credit blocked sales order, and we can provide the sales order number from the context. Then we need to configure the user who will be who can approve or reject the request. So we can choose the users which we have determined from the decision. We will choose the approver email here. Either of user or the group is mandatory. Since we have chosen the user email, the error is gone. If you don't have the user email, you can also configure the user group if that is what you want to do. And you have the due date which you can set. So there are different options like static duration, dynamic duration, or a reference date. So static duration, if you choose, then it means that this form has to be approved within whatever static days you configure, or it can be a dynamic duration, and you can dynamically determine it, or else you can choose a reference date, a specific date before which you want it to be approved, then you can do it. For now, we will just go with the static duration and say 3 days, and then we can save it. Okay, I think it is showing in red because this reject is not connected. For now, I'll just make it connected so that the error goes, and then we can save this. Yeah. Now we have to configure the form attributes, right? What are the different attributes which we want in the form? So we'll get into the form editor and then say we want the text box where we say we want the sales order number. Since this will come from the process context, I will just make it as read only. Same with say I want more details, right? So that the approver can will be able to make a decision whether he can approve or not. So again, I will make it read only, and I will give him further details of the distribution channel. Say I will also provide him with the total net amount and the currency. At last, I will provide him with the area where he can provide his comments of whatever is his decision, whether he wants to approve or reject. He can provide his comments there. As you can see, the approve and reject buttons are already available. Okay, I want this to come down, so I can just move down. Now I can save this form. Okay. Now going back to our process, we have configured the form. Say the approver approves it. Then what is the next step we want to do? We want to update in S4HANA that the approver has approved, and so please release the credit block. For that, again, we will create an action. So we can go to the actions library and search for our project. Here, now what we want to do is release, right? So we want to release a specific sales document from the credit block. So we will add that action here. Yeah, we have added the action. Now we have to configure the destination. Since we have already created this destination variable name, we will make use of it because it's anyway going to connect to the same system. Then we need to configure the inputs and the outputs. Sales document and sales document category. There is a catch in the API which S4HANA supports, that the sales document and sales document category has to be, it needs to be enclosed within a quotes. Otherwise, the API call fails. since we don't have script task in build process automation, it is in the roadmap. It will come up sometime later, but currently it's not there. So what we have done is we have created a cap service which will add this codes, and we have exposed that cap service in the form of actions, which we can again consume it here to make this adjustment. So we will go ahead and do that. Yeah, so that will again be an actions. And in this case, it's the cap service project. So we will go here. So as you can see, there is an action to add codes, which we will try to make use of it. So what do I want to do with this? I want to format the sales document. I will create a destination variable because this connects to the cap service. I will say this is a cap destination. Okay, sorry, I had given a gap. Okay, so this is created and the input to it will be our sales document. We give this, the output will be the one which is enclosed within the codes. It will add a codes to the value what comes in. We have to do the same thing for the sales document category as well. We will do that now. Sorry. Yes. So we will add it. Now we will say that we want to format sales document category.
Rama, we are not able to hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
And share your screen again, please.
Okay. Sorry, I think there was some network issue. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and choose the value for it. We want to format the sales document category now. Then we will save it. Yeah. Now we are done with modeling our action to format the sales document and sales document category. We will go back to this action where it will release from S4HANA the credit block. Here, now we will have to map this formatted sales document as the input, which we will do now. Yeah, we are done now, and then we save this. So our process modeling for is completed as of now. We will just try to go ahead and release this project. It is the initial draft, so we will just give that as the comment. Once we release it, we also need to deploy this project. So we will say next. So we gave the destination variable name at the time of modeling. Now we will have to choose the actual destination. So S4HANA destination, we will choose this as, and then we need to choose the cap destination as well. We will choose the cap destination. We will say next, and then we will deploy it. Yeah, so this is deployed. Since this is an API trigger, we will now try to trigger the process from a postman for now. Yeah, for that, what we need is this is the endpoint URL which will trigger the process, and then the authorization has to be given here to get the access token URL. So as you can see, it's a auth2 authorization, which will need this access token URL, client ID, and secret. This can be got from the service instance keys, which you will be doing as part of the setup of the BTP tenant. Once you have that, you can get a new access token URL, access token, and then use that token to trigger the process, right? But before that, we need to provide the body as well. So for that, what we can do is we can go to the monitor section. And here, manage triggers. Yeah. We can check for our particular project. So this is the one which we have created now. We can go to the view. Then here you will get the complete payload. So just copy it and then we can provide it here. So sales order has to be given as an input. So we have already created this particular sales order in S4HANA with a credit blocked status. So we will use that. Yeah, so as you can see, 201 created. This means that the process has been triggered in the system. So we will just go back and see if the process is triggered. For that, we will go to manage processes and workflows. We can filter for our project. And we can say show instances. Okay, it is showing in some error. Let's see. There is an error in reading it. Okay, maybe we will try with another sales order number. Okay. So it seems to be failing. We need to actually figure out what is the issue. So for that, maybe we can just try to go to the actions project and try to test from there and see. So what was failing is reading a specific credit block sales document. There is a test option here. The destination can be chosen. We can just, okay. Seems to be working here. Okay, so what we can try to do is maybe we will just try to deploy another one time and see if it is working. Yeah. Maybe I will just add some description just to create a different version. I will save it. I will release another version now. And again, I will try to deploy it. We will choose the destination name. And I will choose the CAP service name here, CAP service destination. I will just go ahead and deploy this. Okay, we have deployed now. So now I will try to trigger this. Yeah, it has triggered now. We will go back to the monitor and see if it has gone through now. Yeah, it is running. We can see the logs here. Okay, so yeah, as we can see now it has gone through. Sometimes it happens, so maybe you can just try to deploy it again and see and choose the appropriate destinations if you have not done that. So we can see the logs here that it has read the credit block sales document details. It has determined the approver, and the approval form is now ready for approval. Since I have added myself and Dinesh as the approvers, it should be in our inbox. So we can see that there is an approval form for 17091. What I have created. I think the details are not coming up now. Okay, maybe because the mapping, there is some issue with the mapping. Let's just go to the form and see it. Yeah, so as we can see, somehow the mapping has got lost when we had tried to deploy a newer version, and that's the reason you're not seeing the details. Maybe we can just go to the editable mode again and try to quickly map the attributes. Yeah, so currency field will come from here, your distribution channel, sales document, sales organization, the total net value, and then you save it. Since we have made changes, again, we will release another version here. We'll go ahead and deploy it. So we will choose the variable, so actual destination for the variable for S/4HANA. And again, we will choose the destination for the CAP service. We will say next, and then we deploy it. Yeah, it has been deployed. So we will again just trigger the process. So it has triggered again. So we can see if there is a fresh form now available. Yes, it is available. And it has all the details. And so now me as an approver, I can say that it's fine with true button. So this has been processed. We will go back and check if it has written successfully. What we wanted was 1.0.2. I think we need to yeah, this is 1.0.2. So we will see the instances. Maybe I will refresh the page so that we will get to see the 1.0.2. Okay, maybe I will
Status in the status
add
drop down.
all this.
Status drop down, you add completed. In the status drop down, it is not coming. Yeah.
Okay. And just refreshing the page to see if it is reflecting. I will remove the statuses. Yeah. So as you can see, it is completed actually successfully. So we can see that it has released the credit block on the S4HANA side. We can see it in the context as well. So you can see this message that it has been released successfully, right? So this is how you can model a process. And now my colleague Dinesh will show you some more new cool features. Over to you, Dinesh.
Okay, thank you, Rama. Thank you for walking us through how we can set up a process in a SAP Build Process Automation. So, hi everyone, my name is Dinesh, and I'm working as a product manager with SAP. I have an industry experience of more than 15 years into product development and consulting. So, I'm happy to be here with you all to showcase some additional capabilities. So now, when we say additional, see, we saw a basic process of how we can execute a scenario of create and block. Now, if I want to enrich it further to make it more enhance the user experience, let's say I want to have capabilities of user being able to select certain values from a value helps, or I want to have some tabular format of information to be shown. So like in this case, we are talking about sales order, right? So if I want to show the approver the line item details, or if I want to have an auto approval, or I want to also send an email notification. So I'll try to cover these areas in the next 10 minutes as I can. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so as we saw, this is the project which we have created, right? You can see here that you have the versions of the ones which the initial version and the number of versions which you create. You can see them here in this list, and the latest version is something which you see on top here. What we're going to do is we're just going to jump right into it. Okay, so first thing I mentioned about value help. Now, value is something about how you see in S4 that when you go to a particular field, you press F4, you want to see a certain set of data coming from a respective table or a third party where you want to select certain values without user input. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're quickly going to jump onto the process. Why I'm going this way so that we can see the whole process. And I'll just zoom in a bit. And we'll just go into the edit mode. Now, so we saw how we have added the fields here, like we have the comments and other fields. Here in this list, you can have different types of fields which are available. But for specifically for value help, we're going to use drop down. Okay, so I added here. Let's move it here so that it can be more easy to use. Okay, so now when I add this field, you can see right hand side, you can see different kind of properties, right? You can see here data coming from a data set or manual definition. So let's say I want to give a reason where I know that's a static value. I can write those values here. But if I want to have it come from a definite source, then I need to get it from a data set. Now, when I say I have to get from a data set, it's nothing but actions. And what are actions? Actions are basically encapsulation of your APIs, where you can fine tune the APIs further into where you can have restricted inputs or restricted outputs to control how those can be consumed and used by a citizen developer. So while I'm adding it here, I'll also go to the action, and also in the next step also we're creating a new action as well. So I'll show you that as well. Okay, so here you can see it's only showing as get. Why it is showing? Because you're going to read the data. So in this case, we'll not be having any post method or an update or patch. Only the get method are the ones which can be used for a value help. So in this case, we'll just go here and go for our list. And we have the sales grid work. We'll just choose that in that. Now, if you see here, when Rama was adding, you could see many more methods here, right? But in this case, you only see one. Does that mean that we have only one get method? No. So I'll explain that. Let me just add this here. So as soon as I add it, you can see here it's asking for a destination. When we choose here destination, we can use the S4HANA destination, which we are using for reading and posting the data into the S4. Available data is nothing but the output schema of that particular action. So here we only have two fields, which is reason of rejection and description. So we'll add both. Okay. And we'll also add a table. Okay. Now in this table, I want to show item details. Okay, so I'll add item, then I can add its description maybe, and let's say I can add the category, and let's say I also want to show them the amount, right? So I can show them the net value. I'm just keeping it very simple. Okay. Now, if you see here, I don't have an option of mapping it, right? And since it's approval form, I'll just make it, this particular as read only. I just want to show the data. This one I want user to input. That is why I'm not, make it as read only, because it requires user input, right? So these are two things which we have added additionally here. So we're just gonna save it. Okay, once we have saved it and we go back here, now you can see in the inputs, you will see the additional information which it's asking for, the item details. It's coming at a list. So it's asking for us to bind it with a list, right? So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to go here and I'll show you how to create an action project, right? We go to the action. Now, when you choose action, you have multiple options available here. You can use SAP Graph or Business Accelerator Hub, where you all know that all the API specifications are available, or you can upload your own custom open API spec. So in this case, what we're going to go is we're going to browse through the Accelerator Hub. Okay, so in the search part, I'll just give order. You can see it browses down to the APIs which are available. So in this case, we're going to use the sales order. And when you select it, it will showcase you the available methods in that. You can see that it is a get method, it's a post method, which will post the data, and so on. Like there are too many, you can go through all of them, but you can also view your API documentation. You can see the versions, when it was created and when it was released. So we'll say okay, description, I'll just say fine. Let's just create this. So you can see here we're trying to create a sales order details action project. And while it is creating, I can just show you the other action project which was used when Rama was showing you how to read and write. And I'll just okay. In the meantime, this one has already opened. So in this, you can see we have a lot of methods available. So in this case, we're going to just use only one, which is relevant for us right now. That is to read all sales items of a sales order. So we choose that. We have added it here. As soon as you add it, it will load the input parameters. Here you can see you have to pass the sales order, and these are the count. But since we're talking about only one sales order, these are not relevant as of now. In the outputs, you can see you have multiple types of outputs, right? One is your error message, and one is your successful output. Now, this is a structure, okay? Meanwhile, that is opening. We'll go back here. So this was the API, which was used by Rama. In this, we used the check to get the status, the read to get the data from the sales order. And we also use the release to release the sales order document from the credit block. Now you can see you have multiple gets here, but when we did for action, we only saw one. Why is that? Because if you see here in this, which we have going to be used here, that if you see here in the output, here you have made it as main output array. So in order to make any action become available for value help or you being used as a list collection list, you need to add this additional tag. The moment you add this tag and make it mandatory, only then that action becomes available for value help consumption. So this is the prerequisite to use it in any process. Okay, so that's the reason when we were searching for this particular project, we only saw one get method. Okay. So moving back to this one. So in this case also, we're going to do the same thing, that we're going to make it mandatory and add an additional tag. save it. And we're going to release it. So once we release it, we need to publish it to the library to make it available for consumption. Okay, so as soon as I publish it here, it's published. I go back to lobby. You can see it is. I'll just refresh this. It has become available with the version here, which we have released, right? So now when we go back to our project, right? So what we wanted to do was we wanted to add another action here. This is to read the items data. Okay. Okay, so we're going to get the sales order details. Okay. So in this, you can see they read all item of a sales order. That's only one method which we have configured and it is available here. So once we have added, we need to again see it for the same process. But in this case, since it's a different API, we will have a different destination to be created for that. Okay. Okay, so now we'll go to the inputs. Now this requires only a sales order item to be input. So we'll take from the process input the sales order and save it. Now once we have done that, we go back here to the our approval form, go to its inputs. Now here we wanted to bind it to the list, right? So when we click here, it'll automatically show all the steps from where the data can be read. Now this is what we had configured. We go here. You can see you have the fields, but you cannot choose the field because you're binding the list. If you had chosen single item, then you would have, you can map each field separately, but we're going to bind it as a list first. Okay. We bind it as a list. So as soon as we bind it as a list, if you see here, it has auto-populated certain fields, right? Item category, the net value, it has got auto-populated because it matches name to name. And if the name matches, it automatically proposes you the values. Now for the description, it did not propose. So what we're going to do is we go here and look for the item description. So here, if I had given it as item description, it would have matched. Okay, so we have mapped all the fields here. Okay, we'll just save it. Now, so what have we done here is in the form, we have added the value help, right? So we added the value help here. And we added the tables table to show the line item data. Now we also what we want to do is that if the approver rejects it, we also want to intimate the requester that your request has been rejected, right? So who has to be my recipient in this case? It will be the person who has initiated the process. Okay, and now if you see, you have additional options here. I can CC the approver as well. Right, so I'll CC the approver. Subject we can give as okay. Now in the body, like any other where we have an email, we need to give some details. Okay, so now we can. So now in this case also you can choose the value. So now if you see in the value help, we have two fields which we have given there. Now out of those two, you can give the, I can want to give this and then put a code and tell, okay, this is what is my reason. Okay. And also I want to show the comments from the, approver. Let me call it as. Okay. Just to make it simple. So now when we do that, so now you can see it is all error free. We have added this. And one more thing which we wanted to add. So I'm for the sake of time, what I'll do is I'll also add an auto approval step just to show. Right. Okay. So here, once we have read the sales order details, we want to go for the approval. But what if we want to also set up a condition that if the amount is less than so and so, then you can do just directly go for the unblocking. You don't need to go for an approval, right? So what I do is I go and add a condition here. So as soon as I add a condition here, right now, if I go in the editor and I say I want to do it on the value, right? So if I go down and select the sales orders net value. Now COC is a text field, right? So here you will not get the option of making it as greater than or less than. You only see as it as the because it's considered it as a text. So what we will do is before this, you remember we used the cap service, right? So in the same way, we're going to use the cap service again to convert the text into a integer. Okay, let's search it more. Okay, so we have this here to convert something into integer. So the basic purpose of this action is to take an input and convert it into integer. So what we do is we go here, and since we are reading the value from here, which we want to convert to integer, we take that. Okay, now we go to this condition. Open the editor. We take that value. Now in this case, you will see greater than or less than. So we'll put it greater than. If it is greater than 1000, okay, we'll apply that. So if it is greater than 1000, then only go for approval. If it is less than 1000, what do? We just go directly here. So that because we still need those formatting to be done, and it goes for auto approval after that, right? So now we just save this. Okay, so we'll just make it. So here the versioning, if it is just a patchwork, if it's a minor change, or if it's a complete change on how it works. So we'll just take it a new version. So once it is released, again we have to go to the deployment process. And I set the sales order. I set the cap service destination. And I set the grid block destination. Now we have only one trigger, which was set up earlier. We can see that when I click on deploy. So 2.0.0 is the version which we are looking for. Now, Rama showed you how we can do it from Postman. But let's say you just want to test it, and we want to do it in a much faster manner. What you can do is you go to the lobby. Here you have the monitoring. Okay, in the monitoring, you can go here and see your triggers which you have created. Okay, so you have your unblock sales order S4, which has been released, which is available. You can view it. So this is how the definition. You can always see the definition here that I just need to pass it the value, something like this. Okay, you close it. You go to the process and workflow. Okay, I'll just search for project. Okay, as soon as I do that, I can see the latest version here, 2.0. Okay, we'll just click on start new instance. We'll just remove all this. Okay, let's put it manually. And in this case, I have two sales orders which we can use. First one we will use is for our, it should not go for auto approval. It should go for approval from the respective user. Okay. Let's start this instance, and I have another one which has lesser value, so which should go for auto approval. So we'll just take that also. Okay. So as soon as this is done, we just go to show instances. You can see here Let me just go a step back and show it again. Let's go here. Now I'll just show here you will complete it also. Okay. I did the same mistake. Okay, got it. Just 17099. I'll just start this. One second, let me just check the definition again. So definition is sales order. Okay. So, and the other one which I have is 103. Okay, so I've created those instances. Go to show instances, and I just take here. So now if you can see here, I have two processes here. One is running, one is completed. So the one which I mentioned is, if you see it is completed. If you see the execution log of it, it is, I'll just go down and scroll and see the context here. So you remember we put it, if it is below 1000, it should get auto approved. So if you see here, this 103 is valued as net value as 622. And so it went for auto approval, right? And it got, if you see here, was completely successfully completed. Here you can see the message came back as it is released. The other one, which we sent for approval, it has value more than 1000. So it went for in-person approval. So from here, I can just go to my, since I'm also the approval, I'll just go there. Okay, this is the one which we have picked for approval. So if you see here, it is a rejection reason. Since we're just going to check the rejection scenario, here I say I rejected by approver, and I say amount. That's it. That's giving it as a reason. Okay. And when I click on reject here, and I just go back here and just do a refresh just to see what's the current status. If you see, it's marked as completed. So it has sent the email successfully. So I should be the one who should be receiving the email on this. So if I go and open my official mailbox, just bring it here. Okay. So if you see here, I have received the email that, sales order has been rejected. I gave the 77 reason. I put it here and the comment. So you can always fine tune it as per based on your need. Okay, so this was the basic overview of how we configure and consume actions in a process, or how we define the process and enrich it further. So this is what we wanted to cover. If we have 5 minutes more, I can just basically talk about how. So this is a single process, right? So imagine if you want to do for multi-object, where you want to have, let's say, an Excel file which is given to you somewhere, and then you have list of sales order. You don't want to do this, for individual one by one, right? You want to automate that process. So in order to do that, what you can do is you can create an automation. Okay, so I think we have already exceeded the time, but what I'll do is I'll just quickly show, I have one project created in the same way. Okay, so I'll just show you that. Okay, so what we did is we added an automation project in it. So we create an automation and call the same process into that automation. Okay. If you see here, the automation is very simple. It has considered only 4 steps. What we do is we first add open an Excel, call that Excel. Like, here in this case, I have defined, okay, this is my Excel. I give a, file path, which is coming as an input for the automation. And once I, get that Excel opened, I read that data, and I call the process. So there's the same process which we saw being executed by the API trigger. In this case, what we are saying is that, okay, for every value in this given Excel, you execute this process. Okay, so what will happen is that if you have hundreds of documents to be, processed, you can just, create an automation on top of whatever the process which you have, and then execute it. Now, there's when you go to the monitoring, there are multiple things which you can do here. You can see here you have an triggers available, right? So how do you trigger this automation if you want to schedule a job that you should read an Excel file and then execute those many automations? So what you can always do is, once you have done that, create an automation and released it, you come here, click on add trigger. So okay. 1 second, I should have just search for mine. I just open it. Okay, so in this case, you can see there are 3 options here. You can make it as an API call, which how we did in the process also. You can make it attended mode. That means it will use your, the desktop agent will execute, live on your system. And then you have a scheduled option. So the scheduled technique is basically you don't want to sit in front of the system. You basically choose this option. And since I have chosen the trigger already, it tells me, okay, what are the automation available? I choose that. I give the time frame, whether I want it to run in a date range or in an off time or run over the weekends. I can decide that, choose the time frames, and input parameters again the file path. From where it has to pick the file. Once you do that, right? So let's say in my case, if I have a file to just copy its path. I'll show it quickly here. I just need to remove the quotes, right? So when I create it, the trigger gets created. Okay, and I'll just refresh this page. You can see this scheduled, right? Now it also tells you when it will get executed next. If you want to run it now, you can add your traces for it. It has for the technical users, it's very important that you can add your own traces here if you want to have a debugger, communications, or basically Java connector, what all kind of traces you want to trigger. But again, that consumes memory, so we have to keep in mind, and what kind of errors you want to log into it. You can always do that here. And when you click on run now, so basically it executes the automation. Okay, and you can always go here and see the automation job. Okay, and you can see it says automation job is completed. Let's open it to show the data. Yeah, so it says the automation job is completed, right? So what we do is now here you only see that automation, it picked the file from here and it executed it, right? So I just go to the process and just search for my, okay. I just search for my automation. If you see here, I click on show instances. You can see here that it has initiated so many based on the number of files, right? It has initiated running. So this one is another one, but if you see here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all automations. The process has been triggered, which has you can see here based on the value for which particular you have triggered, it has initiated those particular processes. So yeah, so the reason of showing this was that how you can consume a given process directly into an automation and make it, instead of a single object, you can make it multi-object, or you can make it attended mode or unattended mode. So with that, we come to the closure of this session. And so any questions which which specifically needs to be answered, or I hope we have already covered all the points. And we'll be sharing the presentation thereafter. I think, Srinivas, how is it?
Yeah, we will provide a link in the YouTube description. That's not a problem. Thank you, Rama and Dinesh, for providing us with a lot of new information today, and also to Archana for answering all the questions in the chat. Attendees of this session may want to complete the tutorials for this session. A link to the tutorial is in the chat as well as in the YouTube description. Thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you at the next session later today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.